Hello, good morning. Welcome to the channel again. After my walk round the barangay, I'm reminded of last night. As you know, I haven't had my hearing aid working, but I was able to put earphones in and just with a combination of transcript and also what I could hear on my earphone. That's the earphones plugged into both ears, so I get a sense of what's being said. I watched a video. Oh, another drama out of the Philippines, but actually this one's coming from America. A guy called Dex. I think he's renamed his channel recently. I'm not quite sure what they call it, but I know him as Dex. Maybe it's Dexter, whatever. He a few months, well, maybe a month or so ago, he was talking about an incident that he found himself in the Philippines. He'd been living here for about 15 months or so. Built a nice home, apparently a two-story home for him, his wife, and I believe 4 stepchildren, which he often referred to almost as his own children. But one thing's led to another. It's a combination of maybe misunderstanding on his behalf of how things operate in the minds of a Filipino, as opposed to the mechanism that we use as foreigners to ascertain how to best handle things. And one thing has led to another. He's found himself back in America, and even an innocent comment like from one of his either subscribers or maybe a friend is posted on his, I believe, his Facebook. Oh, you got a new wife. Well, of course, maybe he didn't know that Dexter had gone to the Philippines and married a Filipina. So, therefore, the person innocently says, "Oh, you got a new wife." And what happens? As always, misinterpretation. His real wife, the one that maybe the guy's talking about, is back in the Philippines reading these messages and thinking, what? He's got a new wife? Thinking, oh, he's in America now? He's got a new wife? You see how things can be misconstrued and taken the wrong way. You know, the most innocent comment made to your Filipina, no matter how long you've been with her, can be taken or misunderstood so easily. Like I've said before, they know the words, but they don't always connect the meaning when you put them together in a sentence. And they take either a negative or a positive response to those thoughts. And again, we find ourselves viewing more and more, yes, Americans as well, but I'm included now, because you have to ask yourself. I look at myself more recently since yesterday, I've been thinking maybe a lot of the problem has always been on my side. And I say that not in a negative way, but maybe the fact that I couldn't, or I don't, even with a hearing aid, I don't hear every aspect of a sentence. I do have to pay attention to understand what someone is saying to me. And when somebody says, "Oh, you've been doing this," or "You've been doing that," your immediate reaction is to say, "Whoa, step back a minute. I didn't do that," or "I didn't say that." And then you have to stop and think, why does she think that? Because they do have a rather judgmental attitude towards foreigners. Just like we may have a judgmental attitude towards your Filipino girlfriend, or your wife. Not in a bad way, but we have to be very wary of how we say something and how we how we're mis how it can be so easily misunderstood. So we find ourselves repeating the same things, a bit like now. And that can be rather frustrating for some people. I'm pretty laid back about it, but maybe too laid back to the point where I've let it go, whereas maybe she hasn't, because she hasn't quite moved on. She hasn't got her point across fully. And I admit, with my hearing loss, there may well have been over 10 years times when people say something and they say, "You don't listen to me." And the point is, I do listen, but maybe I don't hear everything that is said. So the onus is really just as much on me to be more careful, but also for the other person in your life to listen carefully also. And that can be very hard for Filipinos when they're sort of evolving in, what do they call them, soundbite language. It's almost like they only hear the first three words and the rest they turn off to. It's clickbait, sound bites. And to have a deep and meaningful conversation is like talking about Chinese politics with someone who doesn't even know where China is. And that can be a problem. It's not negative to talk about these things, as some of you have suggested that I'm a bitter old bigot and that somehow I'm picking on Filipina. I'm not picking on Filipino or Filipino. I lived with a Filipina for 10 years. I'm now living without a Filipina, that Filipina, for however long I live for. Do I regret? Of course. Do I move on? I try to. But inevitably, I look back and I think, where did I go wrong? And that's a question that we probably all go through at one point. Right from the moment you're told you're no longer required, might be because they've decided they don't want anything more to do with you. They've got to the level they wanted to achieve, and they believe that from that point on, the sky's the limit. So no matter what you say, it will have no effect. There is the other aspect, and that is saving face. As so many times my stepdaughters used to say, she doesn't mean what she says. Probably not. It's anger that comes to the head. And therefore, I was always told, just ignore her. Let her cool down. And that's the whole point. If we keep letting people cool down, we leave them with the impression that we don't care. It's just like when we go away from anywhere, any relationship, we inevitably will probably, some point in time, say, I wonder if she was just bluffing me. Was she really trying to push the limits in her own way, saving face? After all, do you really think if you arrive at the doorstep after 6 months away, or 3 months, or 2 months, or 1 month away, is she going to greet you with open arms and say all is forgiven? Of course not. Common sense will tell you it won't happen. And also the reason for that in many cases is simply they don't want to admit that they might have been wrong. So guys, walk that very tight rope and imagine you have to ask yourself at each point, does she really know what you're talking about? You have a great day. Bye now.